anyone who's quit before they got fired because that was. Welcome everyone to our second Keep It Real podcast episode. To learn a little bit about us and Keep It Real, check out episode 1 on our YouTube channel at Keep It Real Talk Show when you get the chance. On today's episode, we're hosting our first ever Power Hour panel. For this Power Hour, as women in business ourselves who wear many hats, we wanted to collaborate with other powerful women that can share different perspectives, accomplishments, and experiences of their own.
So now I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about us before we introduce today's panel. Our host, Alexis Pacheco, is a minister and the executive director of Hudson Church in Guttenberg, New Jersey. She has worked in property management for 11 years now, where she owns and manages properties throughout Hudson County, New Jersey. She's an investor in multiple projects in northern New Jersey. She is also a wife, a mother, and most recently, the host of our show, Keep It Real Talk Show.
Yes, girl.
Clap it up for myself.
We're the only ones here.
God,
you
thank
know.
you.
And now about myself. My name is Alexandra Molina, and I currently work for one of the top real estate developers in New Jersey, assisting in multiple aspects of the business. I am part of the telecommunications and photography ministry teams here at Hudson Church in Guttenberg, New Jersey. Prior to this, I worked in the beauty industry for 10 years, where I did everything from makeup artistry to events and management in New York City. I'm also a content creator on TikTok, where I've grown a following of over 5,000 followers. Most recently, I'm the studio MC of the Keep It Real Talk Show. So now that you know a little bit about our background, let's introduce today's beautiful panel. Our first panelist is Julissa Muriel. Her mission is to allow women to believe they could do anything and work towards meeting the highest version of themselves. After almost 9 years working as an ER nurse, she wanted to create a better lifestyle and future for herself and her family, which led her to become a content creator, business mentor, and mindset coach. Thank you, Julissa, for being a part of our panel tonight.
Oh my God, thank you. Hello. I didn't know that you guys were going to use that.
Of course, that's what we asked for this
I love it. Okay.
Yes, we're so happy to have you with us. Our next panelist is Kimosha Williams. Kimosha has a heart of passion for God and Jesus Christ and a love of his people. Her mission is to share the word of God and to encourage those who cross her path, whether it be at work in the legal field, as a legal administration specialist, or as the co-host of her new podcast, Two Girls, One God. She's a wife, a singer, and a writer. So thank you, Kimosha, for joining us this evening.
I love that.
Having me, ladies.
Welcome.
Yes. And now,
Our final panelist is Rosalind Punales, Esquire. Rosalind has been an attorney for 30 years. She is now a sole practitioner with her office in Union City, where she practices everything from family law to real estate law and pretty much everything in between. Wow. At one point, she was a municipal prosecutor for the town of West New York and the city of Union City, both in New Jersey. Rosalind is also a philanthropist with an extensive portfolio of organizations and associations that she has partnered with over the years. She is a lifelong friend of the host, as well as a big supporter of Keep It Real Talk Show. Thank you, Rosalind, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. Ladies, let's do this.
so now that everyone knows who everyone is, we can dive in. Each panelist has a Keep It Real bell for them to ring whenever they want to chime into the conversation. So our first question tonight is, coming up, when knowing what you know now, is there something that you wish you would have been taught in school about business or life in general that you would like to impart with our listeners today?
Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to take it away. So I actually really love that question because as a first generation American, you know, my parents came from Colombia. They came for like the American dream. And so for me, you know, I've always been a really good student. So that for me was always like my first my first way, right? So I did everything that I thought that I had to do. I went to school, I got good grades, played sports, I went to college, I got my, my nursing degree in 4 years. And then, it wasn't enough. After 9 years, it just wasn't enough. The pandemic happened, and that really shined a light in things that were missing from my life. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people can relate to. So that question really does hit home because what I know now and what I've experienced, in my entrepreneurial journey, I wish we could have learned like, I don't know, like mastering emotional intelligence, mastering financial bookkeeping, like how to buy your first home, how to like all these like things that we need to know on a day-to-day basis. When I think about it, I don't think I have used almost anything in the real world. And I feel like that's such a huge disservice. I think what we were taught growing up, in the school system, they really teach you how to become an employee, how to become a good employee, because you're not really thinking outside of the box when you're in school. They kind of give you a layout, what to learn, and you can't really go outside of that blueprint, right? And I think that does such a huge disservice to us because when we go into the work field, we're not even able to think for ourselves at some point. So that's my answer to that.
I love that, and a lot of good points on that. Before we say anything, do any of our other panelists want to ring the bell? Okay.
No, I do. I agree with her because when we are in school, it's everything book, right? We learn how to study and we learn how to get the good grades. And just like her, we all passed and we had good grades. I just think in school they should teach you the basics, right? How to, like basic skills. Like I was saying, when my father passed away, my mother never kept, balancing her checkbook. She didn't know how to do that. She had to learn. Imagine at her age learning it for the first time. But if they teach us basic skills, communication, how to deal with stress, how to deal with certain situations, I think that would then move us into our profession, how to deal with others. And I think we will be able to be less judgmental towards each other because now we know how to handle different situations. But I agree with you, just basic communication skills.
Yeah, for sure.
Great point.
Agree.
Before we move on, you want to
Oh, yeah, I can chime
chime
in. Yeah. I don't think I need to ring the bell. In addition to what you both said, because you both made some really great points, I would say also just, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint, not being afraid to step out and do the things that are against status quo.
Yes.
Like you said, like you both touched on, you go to school to pretty much be a worker, to learn in the books and pass the test. And some of the stuff that we go over in school has nothing to do with what we're gonna do once we get out of school. And but just having that mindset and having that or even having people in your corner to push you to step out and do some other things that may not be status quo, but may fulfill you on all levels, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and of course, give you a little money in your pocket as well
Right.
to help you
Absolutely.
live, because the cost of living is just exorbitant right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. All great answers. All great answers. You want to add anything before we move on to the next
I'm just
question?
saying, I wish I would have learned about taxes.
Yeah.
Because let's keep it real. That's
Let's
something that
keep
will
it
follow you as long as you're here on this earth. So
Yes.
learn your taxes early, kids, because it will help you.
Yeah.
Most
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Amen. Amen.
All right. So our second question today is, has anyone ever tried to crush a dream or vision of yours throughout your individual journeys, and how did you tackle that situation? I know it's a toughie.
Anyone?
Well, I will say one of the things that I learned in situations like that is the dream or the vision that is given to you to do something is not everybody's business. Because you want to make sure you have the discernment to tell the right people who are going to support you and not tell the wrong people who are going to try to bring you down because of their own insecurities, because they're not doing or even having the, they don't have the ability to do what it is that you're doing. And then I also would say like one of the things that I have taken from like situations like that where I've had people who tried to crush my dreams or visions is it's not not only is it not for everyone to know, but yeah, it's not for everybody to know. It's just not for everybody to know. It's not for everybody to have a say, you know, setting those healthy boundaries to let people know, like, okay, even if you're not telling them what you're doing, if they find out something that you're doing that is something that you're pursuing your dream in some way, and they want to give that unsolicited advice, pump your brakes, hold on.
Right.
That's not for you. But thank you.
I love that.
It's a great boundaries, very
Boundaries, for
important.
sure.
Any other tips from the other panel? Or I'll chime in. No, just reading the question that I was reading and thinking to myself is sometimes we do that to ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
even this whole talk show and what we're doing, I know I have to stop moving. What we're doing right now, like, if you're not careful, we could talk ourselves out of our own visions because things are, you know, on paper, like they don't make sense, or, you know, people asking questions and maybe we don't know all the answers. And, you know, that's why it's important to, you know, for me to be led, you know, by the Holy Spirit and in everything that I do. But so the answer I would say is to watch out for your own selves, like what we're saying to ourselves, the tape recording that we have going on in our own head, because sometimes we are our biggest
We
enemy.
psych ourselves out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We start talking to ourselves and thinking, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ring the bell.
Oh, you're
But
Oh, no, that's fine.
it is true what you say is that we psych ourselves out and then we feel like we need to be validated by
Yes.
other people's opinion. And I'll tell you, Alexis, what do you think about me? You know, and it's true, you have to be careful who you want to confide certain things. Everybody doesn't need to know what you're doing, what your goal is. Accomplish your goal. Let everybody see you accomplish it. They don't need to see how you got there. But it's true, we just psych ourselves out all the time.
And I
Show
think
'em
that's
better
why
than
it's
you
so
can tell 'em.
important to know like who you are, because if you
Yes.
know who you are, especially for me, like I know who I am through Christ and I know what God says about me, so it really doesn't matter what people's opinion about me is their problem, not my problem.
Exactly.
So that's why it's important to be confident in who you are, and we do have an episode on confidence. Keep it real, shameless plug. But it's just important, know who you are, and you know, surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you and that aren't going to tear you down. You know,
Exactly.
those people, mark them. Like, we love them, of course you love everybody, but if you're noticing that there's someone that maybe has a little hate in that area, like they're not on the same level with you, maybe you don't share that much with them about that area, but you still love them, that's fine. But you know, like, okay, when it comes to this, I know that I can talk to Rosalind about this area because she's on point with that. She gives me good feedback, but maybe so and so, you know, that's not really what I'm going to share with them, and that's okay.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to our next question. Have any of you ever been fired or had to quit a job that affected you and played an important role in the person that you have become today?
So I guess I'll take this one. And it's funny because I haven't thought about this situation in years. I almost forgot about it until I read that question. And so after I graduating from nursing school, I got into my first hospital job at bedside at a really good hospital. And after only a few weeks, I was actually let go. So imagine, and I've always been a really good student. I've always been a, excellent employee. Like I have really good people skills. And it was shocking. It was out of nowhere and I didn't see it coming. I was also maybe 21, 22 at the time. And it was very shocking, but it was I think it was my first signal of, to come into entrepreneurship. And it wasn't until, years later that I really went into it. But that was the first signal where I was nobody else can dictate my future. I can never allow someone to really dictate my future. Yeah, allow my future to be in the hands of someone else. And I think that was my first wake up call. Yeah. And it really did dictate the rest of where I am
It's
now.
important.
Yeah.
It's important, and everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So
And did you think that experience changed or molded you differently as to what you wanted to do?
Honestly, I believed in myself. You know, I think that I've, you know, thankfully my parents, you know, my mom especially, she really believed in me at such a young age. She's instilled so much confidence. With any idea that I had, she always supported me, which, you know, I thank her for that, because even when that happened, yes, I was hurt, but I was like, why? I'm good. I know.
Right.
And even then, like, I knew that I have other doors waiting, you know, to be opened for me. But looking back at it, it does affect you in a way where you are like, you know, even if you are in a place of work where that doesn't happen, at the end of the day, nobody else can really, you know, you're only a number to them, you know, in a system. They don't really care what's happening at home. They don't care, you know, if they do let you go or not let you go. Like, they don't really care about those things. Only you care about those things.
Exactly.
So yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Any? Yes. Thank you for ringing the bell.
Yeah, so funny story. Of course, yeah, it definitely started with me being fired. Oh, well, yeah, so I was working for this company, and I remember, I will never forget the day that I got fired. It was that morning I was getting ready, I was brushing my teeth, and I swear I heard the Lord say, you need to go back to school, because I took a semester off. And it ended up being like 5 years in undergrad. And I remember brushing my teeth and hearing God say, you need to go back to school. And I was just like, Lord, how am I going to do that? Because, like, I was literally working. There were some days where I didn't get off work till 12 in the morning. I was in the office till 12 a.m., having from 6 a.m.
Right.
And so, but I was like, yeah, all right, God, if you know what, if you want me to go back to school, I'll go back to school. You figure out a way, I'll do it. Didn't think much of it. 10 a.m. I got fired that day.
Wow.
And it was actually kind of funny, you know. I mean, it was funny, but it was also like a relief. Like, oh, okay, God, so you did make a way, bet. So I ended up going. It was definitely confirmation. I ended up going home. Went ahead and enrolled back in school, and that following year I started back into undergrad, and it definitely was a huge pivot in my life, because I was not working in the legal field before going back to school. And so God not only allowed me to go back to school, he made a way for me to go back to school. It was not the way that I thought. It's not the way I thought he was going to do it, but he did it. But then not only that, he also supplied me with a job, because at 26, I had the notion, well, you know what? I don't know when I'm going to have a quote unquote summertime vacation as an adult.
Right.
And so I literally was like, I'm not going back to work until I go back to school.
Right.
And God literally allowed me to run into the person that was going to be my boss, that started me off in the legal field at the car wash.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Because I was
I
just
love that.
bored, and I was like, let me go wash my car. She looks a little dirty. And it was me and that person were the only people at the car wash. And we exchanged numbers. They gave me their card. And like 2 months later, I had a job interview
Oh, that's awesome.
and ended up working. And that's how I started off in the legal field as a probation officer.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Good for you. Nice.
Yes,
Wow.
it definitely
Wow.
was. And I've been in the legal field since 2009. So,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, well, I love that. I love that. I have a story, but I don't want to interrupt if you have.
No, I don't have a story.
I have. I was just gonna
I'm a
say.
little
all of her
boring.
employees loved her.
Sorry.
All her
I
employers
was
loved
just
her.
gonna say, am I the only one who's quit before they got fired? Because that was always my thing. I haven't had that many jobs, but I had a couple where I was like, this is not working out. I am going to quit before I get fired. But those things actually, they taught me what areas I didn't want to pursue.
Yes.
I was working in one of those. It was I don't want to name drop. So it was like one of those modeling agencies where they come up to you in the mall.
Oh, yeah.
And they get you to come in,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would be the one. So the people would get the leads, I would get the leads, and I would have to call them and try to convince them you need to join our agency. And so like sales is not. I learned that like I was not the type to get on the phone and like not take no for an answer. They'd be like, "Oh, no," and I'd be like, "Okay, have a great day."
I tried.
I get it. I'm so sorry for bothering you. So I learned that, and like, so those little things, you know, they definitely teach you. I mean, trying different jobs, or quitting or getting fired, you know, they lead you to where you need to go sometimes. Sometimes
for sure.
it's necessary. So thank you guys for sharing. I didn't know if you had anything before.
So for me, I quit. So I was back in 2008 when there was a lot of beauty content on YouTube. I started filming content on YouTube and doing makeup tutorials and all that stuff. And it started to become a lot of work. It was basically like I had, at the time I was living in Florida, I had 2 jobs. I was going to school and I was recording this beauty content. So I had to make a decision what was going to be most important, and I quit doing YouTube to pursue a job that I was working for somebody else. And the reason that I bring this up is because I had a full circle moment where during the pandemic, TikTok started to become a thing. And my little sister was sending me all these TikToks. I'm like, I'm not getting TikTok. Like, that's like for, you know, that's for kids. And then I was exposed to a whole new world on TikTok, and I started to create beauty content again. And it's just to tell you that sometimes something is not meant for you in that season in your life.
Yeah.
But if it's meant for you, it will show up in other ways and new ways and a different person. So just always be open that, you know, maybe it didn't work out 10 years ago, but 10 years from now, you never know. You might be in that field or in that area again.
I agree.
Oh, I love it. Great points all around.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to question.
That's me.
or-
Question
yes,
number 4. So this is a big thing now. I'm seeing it all over social. What are some of your go-to strategies when dealing with stress or burnout as women in power?
I'll take it. Because I'm always stressed out. If it's not at work, it's with my kids at home. What I usually try to do, I usually try to take a step back mentally because I realize there's a lot of things I can't control. When I stress out, I start breaking out like in hives, you know, like scratching because I can't control it. Then I realize that if I can't control that situation that's stressing me out, I shouldn't feel stressed out. Obviously, a glass of wine or 2, or the bottle does help. No, but I usually do. I step back and I try to put things in perspective so that I know that I shouldn't be burning out and stressing out over things that are not important. I should stress out over my kids' health, over my family, my friends. Those are things that may be stressful for me. And especially with my work, you know, I love that I have clients and I'm grateful that I have clients. They could be very stressful. And it doesn't matter how much you do for people sometimes, it's not enough. So it would stress me out because I'm thinking I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing anything right. But then I learn to step back, take a deep breath. Really, that's what I have to do at work. And then I realize it. I can't control it. I can't stress out. But that and then I do like exercise just to release some stress and stuff. But we just have to learn to step back.
Yeah.
I saw a hand. Saw a hand.
I definitely agree with what she's saying. I think that you can only control what you can control. Other things, you just have to pretty much leave it at God's hands.
Right. Sure.
But like for me, whenever I find myself in stressful situations or if I feel like I'm on the verge of burnout, I really, again, I reflect, but I take it back to the basics. So I really try to lay out a foundation of good habits, rituals, making sure that I'm eating well. So I take that kind of like a little survey or self-reflection, that time for myself. If it's really bad where I'm burning out, I will sleep. Like if you have to, like it's true. If you have to, that's what you have to do. And like for me, like those foundations are, am I lacking sleep? Am I lacking working out? Like, am I working out? Am I moving my body daily, even if it's for a walk? Am I talking to a friend? Am I having my boundaries do I have any boundaries in place? I feel like that's so important. A lot of people, a lot of times we are so burnt out because we say either yes to everyone or we don't create boundaries with the people closest to us or people we're working with or even in our schedules. All of these things we're, overcrossing our own boundaries and what we are capable of doing, at the time. Yeah, so I really take a big step back and reflect and, I go through my basics and I also get really clear on what's my mission right now. Am I working from a place of lack or am I working in a place of an abundance, and usually when you are in burnout, it's because you're working from a place of lack. So yeah.
I love that. I love all of that.
So deep.
Yeah. No, and it is, it's true, and it happens, especially when you wear so many hats, because that's what happens, to me, and every once in a while, like I have to, like what you're saying, you take a step back, and and when I walk into my office, I pray and I ask the Holy Spirit, I'm like, we're doing this together, because me and my power, like, I'm chopping heads off sometimes because work is the field that I'm in, and then doing 50 other things simultaneously. As we all have our different things. Like, it could be stressful, and it could be. I find when I don't involve God in my process, like I could be a nasty person, and so when I see that coming out, I realize, whoa. Pump the brakes, and for me, I have to then hit the reset button and remember where all my help comes from. So that's helps me a lot.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, nothing good like runs on E. So you need to fill yourself up so that you can fill. At least for me, like I know that I want to encourage others. I want to bless others. So if I'm not filling up my cup, then there's nothing for me to give to anybody else. So like. For me, when I feel myself getting stressed out, which I praise God that I'm as cool as a cucumber, I like to think. But, I make sure to be plugged into the word. For me, the Bible is really important. So when I feel something I try to be specific, like to identify what it is that's stressing me out. And the Bible app is awesome because you can look up Bible plans that are in that specific area. So if I'm stressing out about finances, I'm looking and I'm reading what God says about finances and learning and just making sure that you have a good team behind you that can, encourage you. Don't share your burnout with everybody. Right. Be very selective with who you're telling. We spoke about it earlier.
Venting.
Right, venting. Or just sharing. Not everybody needs to know your problems, and everybody's got them, so you don't need to share them with everybody. Right. So just knowing and asking God who those people are, because sometimes we think it's somebody, but it's really not that person. It might be the person you least expect.
Yes, awesome. Great feedback on that question. Our next question is, what are some areas where you think men could be an asset or an ally in life as women, whether it be professionally or personally? And the reason, let me just give you
I'm like, thank God, because I don't have an answer.
I may have an answer, but we'll see.
Just a little bit of background of why I asked that question is because I was sharing with Alex when we were preparing, and I feel like a lot of times when we do these women things, it becomes very much like women against men, or like, one versus the other, one better than the other. And I just, in my experience, and I mean, I know maybe it is that I have been blessed to have been surrounded by strong, supportive men in my life, which I thank God for. But in general, there are situations where when we unite and work together, like everything, things just flow. So that was the, going into my question that I just asked. With that perspective, is how have you found in your experiences that, working together sometimes, and maybe it's not even, like if they're helping you specifically in that one task, but if you're being helped by a spouse or, just in any area, what I wanted to hear what your thoughts were on while you were
think I may
Going for
have
the
an
bow.
answer. I'm just gonna do that.
Thank God, because
Did you say thank God?
Because I don't tap.
I would say, in the same vein of just having some encouragement, having men who will listen to what we have to say or listen to our thoughts, and listen from a place of love and not a place of let me just fix all of your problems, let me judge you, but just hear us out, because we have the Spirit of God in us as well. And there are things that God wants us to do, and it can only be done through us.
Right.
And sometimes we just need someone to just hear our ideas out, listen and listen to us in its entirety, and to see where we're going with things. And like you said, having an ally, someone who's going to encourage. If I know that there is a specific man, whether it's my husband or maybe a boss or something like that, who could help me, like when we come to men and we ask them or just present our ideas to them, that, sometimes when we present our ideas, we know some ways in which men can help us, which is why we may be presenting it to a specific person. And just allowing a man to just to be around and hear our thoughts, listen to us in its entirety, and be willing, having that heart to help us and encourage us along the way. Because sometimes that's all we need.
Listening and encouragement. Yes. Any other comments on my ally question? No. Okay.
Oh,
Right.
So I would say it's also important to ask God to put those men in your
Amen.
life, and to
Yes.
maybe you don't have, not everybody's blessed to have strong, supportive men in their life. And you know what? That's okay, because God can put those men in your life, but you have to be specific in your prayers. And if you know that there's an area of your life where you could use some testosterone, just ask God to, whatever it may be, that you feel like is where you are lacking in that area that a woman can't help you. Ask God, and He will always provide a way. And again, just be open and have your eyes open, because there could be people right under your nose that you're like, oh, they're not qualified, or that's not the right guy to help me with that. But you never know. So just be open and ask God.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I agree with being open. Just because like you said, you never know who's going to be used, who God has for you to use in a situation. And when you're open, it shouldn't just be like, well, I'm going to go to this person just because she's a woman. Like, to be open to whoever.
be open-minded, right?
Open-minded to
Yes.
whoever God wants to use in that situation, whether it be a man or a woman.
Yeah.
So
Yes, most
thank you
definitely.
for.
Can I just say a little something?
Oh, yes.
So I love that you explained why you actually asked that question, because I was like, I don't know the answer to this. And it's not because I don't have good men in my life. My father and my brother are good men, but it's funny because I listened to this quote the other day, and it was like, I'm the oldest daughter, I'm the oldest sibling. And they said, like, the oldest daughter is the strongest man you'll ever know. And I'm like, that's kind of true. I'm like, that's really true. And I feel like, especially in entrepreneurship, I don't know if you guys ever felt this way, but I feel like we take on such an alpha masculine role in entrepreneurship so many times, and that can be so tiring. And it's really when you heal yourself and really, ask yourself really important questions, like, is this how I have to be all of the time? Because it's really, we're not meant to be in this masculine alpha energy all of the time. So I think I love that, because I have been doing a lot. I do a lot of networking events, and a lot of them is with women. And I have been feeling that way. I'm like, okay, it's time for a co-ed event. Because I'm like, it's good to kind of also see what they can also bring to the table. And just like what you said, they have to be, strong, supportive, and, they really need to know themselves as men. So that they can be an ally to women. So I think it was interesting.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I love to
threw
make
us
you
for a
think.
loop
I
with
like
that
to make
question.
you
Love
loopy.
it.
So, Now that do we have any questions? I think
So we did get a question from Instagram. I'm sorry. We asked our Instagram followers if they had any questions for the panel. It was very vague because, you know, Instagram, they probably didn't even know what was happening because we were being very mysterious about this panel. So this question comes from our follower, Ask Rindy, and they ask best relationship advice for millennials.
Oh my God.
best relationship.
Relationship advice for millennials.
Which type of relationship? Like,
Well, I guess you can answer it in whatever type of if you want to talk about work relationships, or it just says best relationship advice. I would say in any relationship, communication is key. And know when is the right time to talk about certain things. Not everything has to be like a whole long production. Like, yes, we should share how we're feeling, but sometimes we overthink things and we make things bigger than they actually are. So I would just say communication, but also just be self-aware about what, what you want to communicate with that person. And also ask that person how they like to be communicated to. Like, sometimes we talk to others the way we want. Like, I like it all nice with a ribbon and pretty and sugar coated and whatever. But Alexis might just want it thrown at her like a snowball, like she might not want a nice little gift. So I learned that actually in retail is ask people how they like to receive feedback. And not everybody's the same. It's important to know your relationships and how they like to be spoken to. Do they need time? Do you need to, do they need to step back, take a minute before you address whatever it is? So I would just say communication is key in any relationship.
Oh,
This is a hot one.
You're our guest, so you go first.
well, she was.
There we go.
Relationship advice for millennials. Definitely 100%. You need to get the book 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty. So good. I read that book this year and it really put so much perspective. I've been in long-term relationships, so I know a little bit, and yes, communication is powerful. Fighting styles is powerful. Love languages is powerful. Like knowing their love languages. But I think what's so important is that at the end of the day, like, getting really clear on what it is that you want out of this person. What are your non-negotiables, right? And I think that a lot of people they go into relationships based on a feeling and not really asking themselves these questions. And it's not to say like you have to have a list of things for this person, because are you that list as well?
That's
right. That's a really big thing that I learned, right? So let's say like I want them to be handsome, I want them to be smart and funny and attractive and family oriented, and I want them to be patient. Okay, but are you that as well? Are you embodying that person as well, right? And really just what are your non-negotiables as well? Because I think that if you embark in this journey with this person, and if you never want to resent someone, for not being able to carry what your expectations are.
Love it.
Yes, I love that. I will also say humility is key. Because any type of relationship that you embark on, it's on the job training. Whether it's actually at work or just you meeting someone and you're starting a friendship or a romantic relationship, you kind of learn as you go. So just having that humility that self-awareness to know that, okay, you do not know this person, you're trying to get to know this person, and having the humility to just understand within yourself, like, okay, if I don't get it right all the time, it's okay, because I'm learning this person, I'm learning how we get along, or learning that we do not get along and we need not to continue on. But just having that humility to understand that two imperfect people or multiple imperfect people coming together, you're all imperfect.
Yeah.
Give people the benefit of the doubt and have a lot of humility in it.
I just wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry,
no,
Alexis.
go.
No, I just wanted to add. I think that we also need to be patient in our relationship, whether it's at work or personal relationship, and be accepting. But also at the same time, remember we can't lose ourselves just to please that person or
Most
that
definitely.
employer. We have to be true to ourselves and who we are so that they could accept us, and we need to accept them too. But a lot of patience, I think it's also needed nowadays in relationships.
Oh yeah.
100%. And just want to add in, because you brought it to my remembrance, expectations. Something that has been for the last, I think, 2 years that has been big for me. That I, especially in friendships, I've learned a lot in the last 2 years. And it's that, like what you said, knowing the person that you're dealing with. And for me, like, you know, I do attract a lot of friends because, and I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm a good friend. So I am a good friend. So, and so when you're in a role, and then you expect, because, well, you put out for that friendship,
Yeah.
you expect
Right.
it to be reciprocated.
Yeah.
And things like used to bother me when they weren't. And I just kind of have gotten to a place, and she has helped me a lot with this in the last 2 years, where you just have to really step back from certain situations and, like she said, realize the person that you're dealing with. Not everyone is capable of putting out things and handling things the same way that we are. And when you look at your friendships in that perspective, it really helps you flow and cultivate, you know, those relationships as well. So I just wanted to throw that in.
I love
What
that.
a great! I love the way we started a little rough, but everybody opens up to this question.
No, right?
Who knew
that's
that it
what
was
the
gonna be
questions
so
do.
Fantastic. So I think that's it for
Yes,
questions.
so that's it for questions. We want to thank our panel for each of you. If you would briefly just share for any of our viewers who would want to stay connected with you or maybe learn more about you, we'll start here and just let them know where they can find you.
Yeah. So you can definitely find me at Instagram. So it's at __ Jewels. So that's SOJEWELS. You can actually log into like my email list and stuff like that. We can also get connected there as well.
Love that. Thank you for being here with us, Jules.
All right. So if you would like to follow my personal page, on Instagram, it's at _ chemotherapy, KIMOTHERAPY _ my name is Kimosha, so that's a little play on my name. And of course, with the podcast that I am co-hosting, it is on Instagram. It is 2 Girls 1 God 23. On TikTok, it is 2 Girls 1 God, and of course on YouTube, 2 Girls 1 God. So yes, you can follow us on any of those platforms.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining us. And Rosalind?
I'm not big social media. I'm old school, but you could find me on Instagram at Puñales Rosalind, or on Facebook. I'm not big on social media, or you could find me on the corner 48th Street and Burger Line Avenue at my office.
Yes, what
4808 Burger Line
Your
Avenue,
office.
6th floor.
Awesome. We thank you for joining us today. And you can always find us at Keep It Real Talk Show. And quickly, I just want to shout out, today's podcast is sponsored by A2 Interior. They are a luxury home decor company. They were so kind to gift our panelists these beautiful, which the MC is grabbing right now for them. They didn't know they were getting this. These beautiful luxury handmade soap bars by Grace Decor that look good enough to eat, and you'll get it when you open it. Please post it and tag us. Thank you, A2 Interior. Be sure to check them out at a2interior.com. And again, stay tuned, follow us, watch our talk show. Outside of the podcast, we film a talk show pretty much on a monthly basis with a different guest and in front of a live studio audience, which is an awesome experience. If you have never come in person, we encourage our listeners to follow us and come out for one of our filmings of our talk show. And as always, keep it
Keep it
real.
real.
Thank you.
Thank you.